Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the How Did You Learn to Do That podcast. Thank you so much for all the love and the support since we've launched and for tuning back to this week's episode. We would love if you could please continue to help us grow by sharing, liking, and subscribing to all of our social media accounts and letting all your family, your friends, and your communities know about us and helping us to build this community of thoughtful people that are on their own journeys to their purpose in life. We release episodes every Monday, so stay tuned. You can hit the notification button on our YouTube, as well as subscribe and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as any of our social media accounts to know every time we drop a new episode on Mondays. And I hope that the stories that we share will help you to explore and inspire you to set you on your own journey to finding your purpose in life. And as always, we will continue to have authentic conversations with our guests so you can actually feel and see their passion and their love and their joy and encouragement that they have in themselves, and for you to continuously strive to thrive in your life as opposed to cope, and to continue to live your life on this journey to finding your purpose in life. Okay, so today our guest is Ian Stearns. He is the creator of Out the Box, which is a company that's main purpose is to inspire people to break free from the box society is trying to conform them to, and to live a life of passion, power, and purpose. Ian's purpose is to help people transform through sports and personal development so they can step into their potential and live a fulfilling life. His mission is to build personal development sports recreation centers all around the world. He is currently a life purpose coach, helping entrepreneurs and leaders find work they were called to do by helping them gain clarity to their life's purpose. He is also serving as a Christian missionary, building sports programs in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. So all the way from Mongolia, I'd like to welcome Ian.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thank you for having me here, Angeza. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me. And you'll see I have a little bit of a different background today because it is 5 o'clock in Vancouver, but also 8 a.m. in where Ian is from. And because my daughter is awake, I can't record downstairs. Otherwise, you'll only hear her screaming the whole time and trying to get on the podcast.
That's
so
awesome.
I did have to sneak into our office quietly so that I can do this today. So Ian graciously agreed to join and share his story today about his purpose in life after he had actually posted on a Facebook group that we're both on around people that are seeking to find their purpose in life. And he posted a question on there, and I responded to the question and said, if anyone's interested to share their story, I'm happy to have you on the podcast. And Ian graciously messaged me and asked if he could be on the podcast and share his story, which is very interesting. And I'm excited to actually hear more details and more about his journey and his purpose in life.
Yes, so, I'm excited to share.
So I'll let you take the reins, Ian, to talk about kind of where you started and how you got onto this journey to finding your purpose in life, and how you actually ended up in Mongolia because you are not originally from there.
All right, sounds good. So I'll just go ahead and start at the beginning and go through it as quick as I can for the sake of time, so I'm not going off on a tangent.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to be so different than I am today. I used to be so introverted, not so introverted, but so shy and so self-conscious. I grew up very quiet. It was hard for me to make friends. But when I was young, I had one outlet that allowed me to do that, and it was sports. So I stuck really close to sports: football, baseball, and basketball. Those were my sports. And every season I was playing football, then baseball, then basketball. And that's what allowed me to express myself. That's what allowed me to make friends, to fit in, because I was so shy. So awkward in conversations that I only had sports competition to prove myself, to prove that I had a voice. So sports gave me an identity growing up. So I had this big dream that I would one day become a professional athlete because I love sports so much. So that was my goal. I wanted to be specifically an NFL superstar. So by the time I got to university, I was going for my dream. Actually, I'm the first one in my family to go to university. And the crazy thing is, I graduated high school when I was 20 years old because school was not my thing at all. But and actually, I didn't even like school, but I knew I had to go to university in order to continue my dream in football. So I did everything I could to finish and not get my GED. That's why I was 20 years old, going back to night school and all that stuff. And long story short, I found myself getting kicked off my football team for the second time because of my grades. And this kind of, it was a second university as well. The first university, I got kicked off. I was ineligible. So I went to a junior college. Same thing happened again, patterns just repeating itself. And I found myself having to go back home, of feeling like a failure, not knowing how I was going to confront my family, my friends, like, because they all thought like, wow, he's going to be a superstar. You know, next time we see him, he's going to be on TV. Especially like my family, like that's the dream. I was telling them like, I'm going to go do this, but I found myself coming back, having to find a job, working in the oil fields, which I absolutely hated. Transition to the railroads, which was the same. Hated them both equally. They were good paying jobs. I was making good money, but working 50 to 60 hours a week, uh, 10-hour days, and it was just unfulfilling. And I hated every moment. I hated waking up at 5 a.m. to get to work. I hated feeling like a robot every day, you know. So I've always felt like I was called to do something greater in life. I've always felt like I was the one to change things in my family, you know, to finally bring us like financial freedom, financial security in our life. But we'd never had that growing up. So I always felt like that was me, but I felt like I lost out on everything at that moment. So it led me into a depression, getting into drugs and alcohol to try and soothe that pain, that quiet depression that I was going through. And um, and it wouldn't last long, you know. You take the drugs, you drink, you party, and then the next day you feel like crap again, you know. So it's like, but you just get in a cycle. And I started to become addicted to specifically the pain medication. That's what I was on. And I felt it just taking control of my mind, my body, my finances. So I knew it was just becoming a problem. um, but one day I was in a network marketing company. I just joined at that time. And this book kept coming across over and over and over. And at that time, I hated reading. I couldn't stand reading because first of all, I hated school. And then they taught how they forced us to read things. Like I never read any book before in my life. I would always just fail out of tests or anything because I just couldn't read. I have a problem like with focusing in. I guess it's ADHD. Never really got diagnosed, but it's hard, especially when I'm not interested in it, you know?
Yeah.
So, uh, this book kept coming across. I didn't want to read it, but one day I was watching the news, and this little boy created an application, and he released it into the marketplace, and he had over 1 million downloads. He is 8 years old.
Wow.
The interviewers interviewed him and asked him like, how did you know how to create this? You're only 8 years old. Where did you learn how to create an app? And then the app had a physics engine. And then he was like, well, I just went to my school library. I rented a book on physics, and I also rented a book on how to create applications. And then I created it. And I was like, just had like a big like aha moment, like, wow, there's so much power in being able to read, you know, like in reading. I was like, and then I was like, you know, I have to get that book. So long story, well, that book was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that was the first book that I ever attempted to read on my own. And it was the first book that I ever read from cover to cover. Once I opened it, my mind just began to start like, wow, like possibilities came up in my life, you know. I thought it was going to be a book because the subtitle says what the rich people teach their kids about money that the poor middle class don't. So I thought it was going to be a book on like the secrets of the rich, you know, what the rich know that the poor don't. But it was just a book all about mindset. It was just mindset. Like the reason why they're rich, the reason why they're poor is just because of how they view money, you know, how they view opportunities as well. And I was just like, and it was just giving these examples. For example, it says the rich work or the poor middle class work hard for money, but the rich people make money work for them. And that was like, is that even an option in life? I didn't even know that. How can you make money work for you? So this book there was so many things that it was saying like that. And then at that point, I kind of got introduced to the whole world of personal development, and that set me on a more positive direction in my life. And I was still with the struggling with drugs and alcohol. After that book, I wanted to become a successful real estate investor, start my own big business, how everybody's dreams become after reading that book. So I was chasing that desire right off the bat, saved up money, went to real estate school, found myself failing out of real estate school. I was like, what the heck? I thought this was my big opportunity. I thought this is what I wanted, but for some reason I couldn't focus in and pass that test. And I was kind of giving up again on life, doing more drugs, smoking like a pack of cigarettes a day. And long story short, one of my pastor friends from back in the day reached out to me. And I saw some things he was doing on Facebook, and he reached out to me and he asked me if I would be interested in coming to China to help with his ministry, to learn missions. He would teach me how to be a missionary. Also, he'll find me a job teaching English and stuff. And I was like, at that moment, I never thought about leaving the United States before in my life. I didn't even have a passport. Like, I had no plan to live anywhere else. But I was reading a Bible verse. Give yourself unto the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart, right? So seek the Lord first. Seek the kingdom of God first, and he will give you the desires of your heart. So that kind of spoke to me at that time, and I was like, wow, my whole life I've been trying to like chase my goals and my desires, not ever asking first what was his desire for my life, it was just a selfish goal setting pursuit, that's why I kept failing, I felt like. So I was like, let me just challenge this. Let me see if this is real. Let me see if God's promise to me is real. So I was like, there's no other better way to challenge it than to accept this offer, and I kind of wanted to leave because I didn't want to be in my environment, because my friends, all that stuff were just around, it'd be hard to quit doing drugs. So I was like, that was my way out. So long story short, went there, faced another challenge in my life. One of the biggest challenges in my life, actually. When I got there, I had just got fired from my job, an English teaching job. First of all, they told me that my skin was darker than the picture, so they didn't want me to teach there. Yeah, they're like the most openly nicest racist people you'll ever meet, Chinese people. They're like, oh, your skin's a little too dark, and then also you're not a good teacher. So I never had any prior teaching training before that, so I wasn't a good teacher at that time. But I lost my job, and then I had no money, no income. I was there, and my pastor found me a quick job, like 1-day job, but it was to stand on a stage and present how to sing English songs better for a big Fortune 500 company there. And there's like 300 people in the company watching. It was like a song competition that they were having inside the company. So I said that, no, I can't do that. Like, that's never, like, I can't do that, because that's my biggest fear. It's public speaking. There's no way. Like, I can't even like speak to more than 2 people with their eyes on me without like sweating or getting nervous or my voice shaking. So I was like, there's no way. Is there anything else? You're like, this is all we got. And actually, I already told them that you would do it. And I was like, what? I was like, oh my goodness. He connected me with them, and I was doing my best to say, like, I'm not the guy. I've never spoke before in my life. I don't even know how to speak. Like, I don't know how to sing songs. They're like, oh, you don't need to know. You just figure, like, teach it, And I was like, oh my gosh, they're not going to let me go. And then my pastor reminded me at that time about my dreams and my vision of becoming this great leader, of building this great company, like of becoming a real estate investor. Like, didn't you say you wanted that? And I was like, that's true, and I moved across the world to change my life, to decide that this is it. I want to step into that person. So I had to look back and think the reason why I was there in the first place. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. I'm just going to do it. And long story short, I did terrible in the presentation. I was like so nervous, standing there one place, like looking at the slides the whole time, not even looking at the audience, and just reading it word for word almost, sweating up there, stuttering, and no emotion behind my words, just speaking. And as soon as the slide said thank you, I just walked off the stage. I almost felt like dropping the mic and running, but I just walked off, handed them the mic, and sat down so quick. Like, I was like, okay, now I can collect my money and I can leave. I did it. I'm finished. I didn't pass out.
Yeah.
So the craziest thing happened though after that. I was in the lobby and I was waiting for my check, my compensation, and this one contestant from the singing competition came up to me and he said, "Thank you." He was like, "Thank you that your presentation was so helpful, and I'm gonna actually implement what you taught today. I feel like it's gonna help me." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that'd be great." And then, because the day before, I just like went on Yahoo how to sing English songs better, and I typed that in. That's what my presentation was. I had no connection. There was no thought behind it. I just copied, pasted almost. So, yeah, after he said that to me, he walked away. Uh, my mind was kind of like shifted at that moment. Like I actually helped somebody through what I did. And I was terrible. I did a terrible job. I hated every moment of it. But at the end, somebody was blessed from my speech, my presentation. And I was like, kind of just blew my mind. Like, uh, and then more like I went home and I thought about it that day and I was like, wow, like if I could do that, if I could help somebody through like something I didn't even like care about, like, what could I do? How could I help people like through something I did care about? And then there was one thing, like, how did I even like do that? How did I stand up on that stage? Like where did I even get the guts to do that? At that moment, I didn't know what it was, but now looking back, I can tell like clearly the reason why I was on that stage is because I had a purpose. I had something bigger to live for than myself. It was no longer my own personal goals, but it was like I felt called by God to do this. He set that up, and it wasn't it was for the greater good of like what I want to become, and in the service of other people. I can't lead people without being that speaker, without being able to communicate and stuff. So in order to get in that position, I had to do it. I had to just fight through it and get over that fear. And having that purpose for the future, if it was just a goal for me to become rich or something, like, then it's like it's not a purpose. It's not like great. I would have quit. I would have not even showed up if it was for that reason, because it's a personal goal. I've always failed, and I've always had the habit of starting and never finishing in the past. So at that moment, it was like it wasn't for me anymore. It was for the future, like for other people that I'm going to help, that I'm going to lead and serve. So I was like, wow, at that moment in my life is when I understood purpose. Yeah. And since then, I've just been so focused on personal development, specifically studying the topic of purpose. Um, since then, it's been 5 years now. And there's all kinds of books that I read on it. Ended up becoming a life coach a year ago, finding my passion, turning it into a profession. And ended up, well, since you asked, how did I end up in Mongolia? I met my wife. She was on a missions trip in in China, and but she's from Mongolia. And we met in my church and we're serving together. Long story short, we got married and moved to Mongolia. So that's how I'm here. Yeah. But figuring out that purpose, doing all these personal development things, listening to podcasts, I ended up finding the most perfect job for me in China, which was teaching sports and getting paid for it. I didn't have to have a degree. I just needed to know what I was talking about. In China, they don't really care because it's new there, especially American football is what I was teaching. But I had to get clear on the direction I was going in life. And I came across a podcast that helped me do that, which is called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And it's a book called The One Thing too. And basically it helps you come up with your mission in life. I did the whole exercise. I came up with a mission, and that mission was what you read at the beginning, to create personal development recreation centers all over the world. That would be the most meaningful thing that I could possibly do here on earth while I'm here. Even if I never achieve it, it would be worth my while trying to spend the rest of my life working towards this goal, right? That would be my one thing. And I was like, at that moment, uh, once I got clear on that, I now had direction in life. I knew which opportunities to say yes to, which opportunities to say no to. And even if it was for a cut and pay, I know that I'm going in the right direction now, towards my goals. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So towards my one thing, my vision. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. I summed everything up at the end. There's so many things that happened these past 5 years, but I don't want to keep going. So
Yeah.
for the
No, that
sake of
was,
time.
I think that, that was really good. And what you said there about knowing your mission, and even if you don't get there, but just the journey of getting there or trying to work towards that is still worth your while. And I think that that's really important, because a lot of people, they tend to understand where they want to go with a goal, or they know what the goal is, but the journey to get to the goal is where the challenge is, and that's when they give up, and where they just stop because they don't know if they will ever achieve that goal. But the
Mm-hmm.
journey on its own is very valuable and has so many lessons and
Mm-hmm.
experiences and things that you could learn. And actually, even if you don't achieve that goal, it will set you on a path to another goal or another passion, or where you're actually supposed to be, because you may set forth on one particular goal and path,
Mm-hmm.
and then on while you're on that path, realizing that actually you need to make a turn here, because
Mm-hmm.
that brings you more joy, more purpose in
Mm-hmm.
your life. And I think that's
Right.
really critical what you said.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And a lot of people, they don't have a strong enough goal in the first place. That's why they're not able to persevere when times get tough,
Mm-hmm.
because their goal is vague, like how mine was to become a real estate investor, or to start my t-shirt printing company. It was like there was no bigger purpose behind it rather than it just being a goal, and it being a personal goal. None of that was for like, I want to start a company to greater the good of humanity. It was like, I want to be financially free. That's why I want to do it. It's for myself. Even it was for my family. That's still a personal goal. So finding something that's so compelling that you could possibly create or possibly sow into with your time, energy in the future, um, that's what's going to help you continue to persevere when times get tough. It's going to help you step into things that you thought you never could do, but because you have this strong, compelling vision for your future, and you know that achieving this is going to like just be the greatest thing you could possibly do here on earth, then it's like it pushes you to fight past your fears, your limiting beliefs, those mental barriers that you have. There's a really cool quote by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He says that courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the realization that something else is more important than that fear.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that important end goal, it becomes greater than any fear that tries to stand in your way. And
Mm-hmm.
you're able to like just take your life to new heights, like places you never thought you could go, things you never thought you could do become easier.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that is, I shared a quote similar to that on my Instagram last week, and it said that everything you've ever wanted in life is on the other side of fear, and you just have to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a lot of the time, it's the fear of, what society will say, or what, your close friends or family will say, or, people in your community will say, and you want to kind of maintain this ego or this perception. And
Mm-hmm.
Eckhart Tolle says, once you remove the ego, if you actually treat the ego as a separate entity, separate from you in your body, and you
Mm-hmm.
actually remove it, and you put it away, you'll realize that everything you've ever wanted is right there, and you just have to
Right.
work for it. And I think what you said about your own, you I think as individuals, we always just get in our own way, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not always other things or other people getting in our way. It's just
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, our mind, our abilities, or our self-doubts as well. Like you said, I think that is what inhibits us from being able to do something further in life, something that brings us true happiness.
Right. I like that's so true. Like everybody that I talk to, especially the ones that are like ready for their journey, they understand that they are the only person that's standing in their way from achieving whatever they want. The ones who don't realize that yet aren't ready for the journey of transformation. They're not ready for the journey of hitting their goals. You know, they're stuck. They won't ever be able to step past that because they can't realize that the problem is their self, and that's all the problem is. Even if it's this really bad circumstance you're in, even it doesn't matter how bad the circumstance is, getting over your own mental barriers about what you believe about that circumstance is the key to that. You know, taking full responsibility for your life, no matter where you are in life, no matter how you grew up, no matter your environment, uh, that's up to you. You have to leave that environment. You have to leave those people. You have to make that choice, you know? So it's, when it boils down to it, it's all up to us to achieve the goals that we want in life. But there's a big misconception from a lot of people blaming it on society, their friends, family, you know, but we're in control.
Yeah, and I agree. And in my last episode, Angeza, our guest, she said that, you know, you can't force anybody else to get onto this journey in life, to their purpose in life, or to just want to grow and have a mindset growth, because everybody has to have their own souls be ready to receive those messages, because they're always there. It's just, when are you ready to receive that message and act upon it, and, you know, and be able to move forward with it, you know? And for all of us, it's different. For me, it was, something I've been working on for a very long time, but then the birth of my daughter really catapulted me to pursue this, because, I want to be living a more purposeful life for her, so that when she grows up, she sees that and she lives a more purposeful life if she can, and for you, it was, wanting to achieve your dreams and figuring out where you needed to go with what you wanted to achieve and how you needed to get there. And I think everybody just has the ability. It's just, you have to listen to your body. You have to be able to take time to connect with yourself, to self-reflect, to, see messages and see how they reflect with you. And the story of the little boy that read the books and created this app for you, if you weren't ready to listen to what he said and reflect and actually let it connect with your soul, that would have, you may have not connected that way. It may have, gone a different, you might, exactly. It might have just gone right over your head as opposed to understanding it. But I think everybody has that moment when they can make that change in life. They just have to believe in themselves.
Yeah, they just have to accept that it's up to them. It's not up to anybody else but them. And then that's whenever they can do it. And you said also about self-reflection. That's so powerful. Not only reflecting like now who you are today, but your past. There's a saying in the movie Cars, where Doc is trying to teach Lightning McQueen how to turn left in the dirt, how to make that drift. He says you have to turn right or left in order to turn right, and he just couldn't figure it out. Like, it's kind of, but he ended up getting it. But in the same sense, in order for us to look forward into our future, we have to look back at our lives and connect those dots. Like Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back. So you have to look back on your life at all those experiences, good and bad, and try to find a pattern within them to choose your most meaningful path forward. That's where you find your mission, is in your past. Everything you struggled with, everything that helped you be who you are today, that's where you're going to find your end result, your goal. That's why it's going to be so meaningful to you. It's going to be an inspiration for you to get up and get to work whenever you connect it to your past, because our past is so huge for us. It shaped us, and some of us hate our past, but no matter if it's good or bad, it's a gift, because there's something in it. That's what God uses to talk to us, right? He uses those pasts. He's not going to audibly come out and say, you're called to do this. He gives us the ability of free will, and he lets us see. It's up to us. Like, he gave us free will to live our lives. He didn't make us have to serve him. We have a choice in this life. So figuring out or going back, connecting those dots, having that self-reflection on your life is going to be so powerful, helping you choose your mission.
Yeah, and I agree. I believe that, sometimes you have conscious or unconscious, experiences that are affecting you, and they're putting up barriers in your life and not
Mhm.
allowing you to be able to connect with yourself deeper, or even move past a certain
Mhm.
routine or a certain cycle that you're stuck in, and how to get past that and, move past that barrier. And in order to do that, you do have to go back and reflect and dig deep and, figure out where are these experiences that's holding you back, and what do you have to do to heal from that in order to move forward. And one of my favorite movies I watched almost 15 years ago, it's called Loopers. And initially when you watch the movie, because it is a movie about, gangs and the drug trade and all that, and initially I watched the whole movie and I didn't get it. And then I went back and watched it again a second time. And because I knew what was going to happen, I listened more for the message. What was the meaning behind this? And essentially, it was this, this little boy who, something happened in his childhood that really affected him, and how it was dealt with at that time really impacted him. And then he continued to live this life of crime, of, being the leader of this drug trade, of, murder, and, spending time in jail, and just continuing and perpetuating that lifestyle that was his stepdad's lifestyle that he
Mhm.
continued. And
Yeah.
then at the end of the movie, it flashed back to that scene at the beginning. And, when that scenario happened, it showed how he was able to deal with it or heal from it, be given that opportunity to reflect and heal from it. And then it showed his trajectory in life of how he lived a more purposeful life, a happier life where he wasn't, you know, involved in crimes and gangs and
Yeah.
going to jail and all that. It's just, and in that moment, I just realized that, like, that's the circle. We continue what our parents are given, and
Right.
if they haven't had an opportunity to reflect, then we're just continuing that karma that comes from our families as well, and living that life just coping, coasting along. Or we can actually take an honest stance and say, we want to stop this cycle, this loop, we want to close it, and it changes from me forward. And then it's going to change for you, for your kids, for your great grandkids, and then it's just going to take a different trajectory
Hmm.
for life.
Hmm. It's
And
so
I think,
huge. Oh, go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, and I was just say that I think that's just such an important message, that
Yeah.
this reflection is not just for you. This is for your future and for your legacy.
Hmm. And once we realized like how much of an influence our family really had on us, especially like even coaches that played a role in our life, or pastors or mentors when we were younger, like somebody we looked up to, they had a huge effect on us, and either negative or positive, they've had an effect on us.
Mm-hmm.
And really becoming self-conscious and really deciding it, is this habit me, or is this mindset me? Like, is this mindset going to support me in the future? Because when we're kids, we think that our parents are so wise, they're so perfect. Like whatever they say is right.
Right.
It's it doesn't care. I don't care what your mom said. My mom said this. So it's like, once we get old enough, we start to see how real our parents are. How human. I mean, they make mistakes. They're not the wisest people in the world. They're a mom and dad trying their best. They're helping, going off their own knowledge, teaching you what they know. But not every time. Their lessons aren't always what is going to help you become the best version of you in the future. So when I read that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that was never a conversation in my house at all. Like, my parents don't even know anything about all that. My brothers and sisters, like, they've never heard of that stuff either. Making money work for you, and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, there's so much things out there I need to learn. Like, there's so much endless possibilities in this world. That book opened up this world to me, like, and it all started with mindset. That's how. And over the past 5 years, I've just been developing my mind, um, learning all about or deepening my personal development journey. Yeah. So yeah, there's so much power in that reflection, deciding if those roles that you've become in, that if you are into, if they're going to support your future, your vision for your life, and then getting rid of them or stepping more into them if they will support.
Yeah, and I think that going back to talking about your mission, I think that is so important, because when we work in the corporate world or for a company or anything like that, those companies, they always have a vision and a mission. And
Hmm.
that's just kind of the way they see forward for
Hmm.
their business, making their profit and all of that. And it makes, it's at the top of all their decisions. And I think that taking that mindset and just saying, I need, like you said, I need a mission, I need a vision for my life, so that I know, in all of my life, when I move forward, where I'm going with it, how is it achieving my mission, and what else do I need to do to get there?
Right.
Or am I on that journey, or have I kind of moved away from that? And how do I get back to that? And I think that, what you said there is really important for people to actually spend the time and the energy to sort through, what is their vision for their life, other than, going to school, getting a job, those
Right.
kind of traditional things that happen. But once you do have
Mhm.
the job, what is your mission in
Yeah.
life in general?
Yeah. And like my mission is to build recreation centers. Like that's a
Mhm.
very entrepreneurial mission to have. But not everybody's an entrepreneur. Not everybody's going to build that business or that nonprofit in the future.
Mhm.
There's vision creators and there's vision supporters.
Mhm.
But everybody needs a mission, because everybody needs to see what would be their most meaningful thing to accomplish in this world, even if it was like they worked for that company that did this thing that was in line with their mission. Without having their mission, they couldn't choose that company and have certainty that they're right where they're supposed to be, right?
Right.
So everybody needs to have that angle of where they're going, whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee or just a leader in a company. You have to have a mission, and then you find companies that align with where you're going. That's where
Yeah.
you find certainty in your job. That's how I ended up finding my favorite job, my best job. I don't like working for people, but I didn't mind working there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to figure out the why. Why are you there? Especially in those very difficult, very challenging times, like you said. Understanding your why and going back to that, I think is so important for that. And so I know you said that you've been on this journey for a while. So I was just wondering, how do you keep your mindset positive in, whenever you're getting challenges? What are some things that you do to, when you're having difficulties, to be able to come back to that positive mindset?
Honestly, the two things that have guided me since that day, since 5 years ago when I decided to change my life, 2 years after that, I came up with a purpose statement and a mission statement. So
Mhm.
these two things literally act as my guide.
Mhm.
Anytime I came here to step on a stage to share my testimony in front of the university students here, there was like maybe 70 kids in the stadium, and I was scared still, but it was like my third time stepping on a stage since that big moment in my life. And I saw the more I did it, the more I got used to it. But having that purpose statement and my mission allowed me to accept it. First of all, they asked if I wanted to do it. Normally I would have said no, like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get uncomfortable and sweat in front of a lot of people and possibly look dumb.
Yeah.
But knowing where I'm going and having that purpose statement, I said, I need to do this. I don't have a choice. I didn't go out there and ask them, but when they asked me, I was like, it must be God, like pushing
Mhm.
me, nudging me. You got to keep going, don't stop. You have to keep learning. You have to get more experiences. So yeah, uh, crazy thing is, so sorry, I'm going off now
No, no,
on
go ahead.
yeah. So, but the crazy thing is, uh, when I stood on that stage, this was another powerful moment too, because this wasn't around like the speeches I gave after that big moment in my life were like in front of my church family, so it was like really close people. But at this moment was the first time in public speaking to a lot of people since that first big moment in my life. And at the end of the speech, I was kind of excited. I was like looking at everybody in the stands or in the seats, and I told him, I shared with him, I wasn't even planning on doing this, but I shared with him, I like, public speaking used to be my greatest fear in life. And I didn't even plan on saying that, but I said used to be. And whenever I said that, I was like, I used to say public speaking is my biggest fear, but when I said that used to be, I kind of reflected later on that, and I was like, wow, like used to be, it's not my biggest fear anymore. Like now I just stepped into it again for the fourth time, and when I started to change my language like that, like I started to realize how powerful our words are. But yeah, having that purpose and mission statement is what allows me to push in the hard times. Having that courage, knowing that something else is more important, knowing that I'm going somewhere, that it's super important to me, and the greater good of humanity, because I really want to help people change through sports and personal development, because that's what changed my life. And that would be the most meaningful thing for me. So that is my inspiration, my mission, my vision, my purpose statement, like my passions. Those are everything that get me to go.
Yeah, and I think that's a really powerful message that you're sending about, understanding that sometimes you get through your fears, but you don't even realize you're there because you're on your journey. And then when you realize that you're no longer fearful or you don't have those fears, that's just a powerful moment. And it's powerful just to know yourself that you were able to get over that fear, or you were able to conquer that fear. And it just sets you on a journey and a path, knowing that you can really do anything you want, just as long as you set your mind to it. And the fear is there to stop you, but you can just keep going and you will get past it. I think
I like it. There's a powerful quote that says, fear is the gatekeeper to all of your wildest dreams. So if you are able to overcome that fear, if you're able to overcome that fear, like literally your wildest dreams open up. Because if you can overcome your biggest fear, like what else is possible? You just conquered your biggest fear. Fear is the thing that controls almost all people, it's almost stronger. It's almost stronger than the positivity. And it is a lot stronger than positivity in this world. Fear. It's a stronger force, unfortunately, but overcoming that is like so empowering, especially when you look back and know who you were and you struggled with this thing forever, but you stepped into it for the third, fourth time. It's not going to be, once you do it once, it's not going to be like, oh, now I can do it, whatever. But it's doing it again and again and really conquering that fear is what's going to like, if you could do that, you could do anything in this life.
Yeah, and I think I was actually just having this conversation with my husband when we went out for a walk earlier, and I was saying how this podcast is, something I've talked about for years and years. I would say at least 10, 15 years with my family and my friends. And, I never really went for it because I was fearful. I was fearful. Not that I didn't think I could do it. I was just fearful of what people would say. Would I even be relevant or interesting enough? Or, myself just like, managing, the podcast platform, the website, all that comes with managing a brand. And then, a couple weeks ago, I was like, I'm just going to do it. And then early April, I just went for it and did it. And I remember my first 2 episodes, I rehearsed and I practiced and I spent hours trying to make it perfect. And then since then, understanding that I am living my purpose. And now it's just, just getting on this call and being able to just have these conversations, like, I don't know if I would have spoken to you, like if you had messaged me last year asking to be on a podcast with me, I would have been like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I'm probably going to disappoint him and it's not going to work out. But now I get so excited when people message and want to be on my podcast because, from across the world, we're talking and sharing this having this conversation about something that we're both working towards, and trying to live our purpose in life and inspire other people. And I actually have noticed, and this will be my 5th podcast, but just in this last month, I've noticed that people around me that were kind of unsure about me launching a podcast, they themselves have now become inspired. And I saw one person was starting to make videos. My sister wants to create an app that she's been thinking about for years, and then one of my friends that was actually on my last podcast, she's now inspired to continue the work that she wants to do. And then there's people that want to do their own brand, create their own brands and blogs or vlogs or, write books or whatnot. And they're reaching out and asking, how to get started. And to me, I'm just like, this is crazy. You know, I've only been in
Right.
for a month. Like, I'm no expert. Like, why are you coming to me? But then at the same time, it's inspiring because I was able to take that jump, you know, and similar to you, like you're able to just make that jump and start something. And that
Mm-hmm.
on its own is an inspiration to people because a lot of the time people can't get over their fear and make that jump, you know, make
Right.
that leap to say that I'm going for it.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of anything, I'm going for it. And I think that on its own, people want to know more about, like, why did you start? How did you start, you know? And you
Mm-hmm.
shared about, you know, the message on the screen wanting to, you know, make a change in your life and having, you know, someone reach out to you and just being open to it. Shonda Rhimes, the creator of Grey's Anatomy and Chicago PD and, you know, all those big shows on primetime networks, she actually wrote a book. It's called The Year of Yes. And in
Mm-hmm.
her book, she talks about how she always, even though she's, you know, famous and she's very successful, she would always say no to things, you know, invitations to parties, invitation to meeting random people she didn't know for coffees, checking her emails and responding or anything. She'd always say no, 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 because she was fearful. So then she decided that, you know, for this 1 year, she's just going to say yes to everything and see what happens. And she said that in that year, she created deeper, meaningful connections with people she absolutely did not know at the beginning of the year. She opened herself to these new opportunities that she never would have even known about or been a part of because she just said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the part that, you know, makes it interesting for people, that, you know, when somebody is able to say yes and get it done, then, you know, they're like, okay, I want to say yes too. How can I start? And you know, and that's, you know, your story is very inspiring to people that want to get started. And that actually takes me to my next question. If you, in your mindset and, you know, in what you're doing right now, if you could go back to talk to yourself when you first got kicked out of college for and not making the football team, I believe, what would you say to yourself at that point?
Yeah, it's I love that question, and I thought about it before actually. Before I had all kinds of advice I would give to my younger self. You know, like I was like, man, I have so many things to tell my younger self. Like, I could paint a clear picture of the future of what it's going to be like. You know, give them a really good head start. But I was thinking like, uh, it's almost necessary for me to go through all of that stuff that I went through. You know, because it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be like without the pain and the struggle, without the uncomfort, without like figuring it all out on my own, like literally searching everywhere, um, it wouldn't be the same. If somebody just came and told me, you wouldn't value it as much, right? You wouldn't really. If I went back and talked to myself, my younger self would probably be kind of skeptical, like who are you? Like how should I trust you? I don't like this isn't real anyways. You know, how can you talk to somebody in the future? It's like that's how I was back in the day anyways, you know. But I probably would have took it with a grain of salt back in the day,
Yeah.
uh and just like that's impossible, that's like completely not me, like how in the world, where would I start, you know. But if there was a piece of advice I would give, one thing that I could do, uh if I could go back even earlier than that, I would just give my younger self, I would just encourage him as much as I could, motivate him, and then give him that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And as I read this book is gonna change your life, and that's it, you know. And then let him figure it all out from there, because that's where the transformation comes. You know, whenever they have the answers, they find the answers for themselves. People in
Mm-hmm.
general, you know. So that's what I would do now, for sure, if I went back.
Yeah, I love that answer because I, you know, I get asked the same kind of question that I asked you actually often, and I say the exact same thing. You know, you need to have those hardships, those challenges, in order to understand how to get out of it. Though that's a skill, you know, similar like an obstacle course. You know, you have to climb those mountains, you have to jump the ropes, you have to go into the mud, you have to figure all that out in order to get to the end and really, really appreciate where you've
Mm-hmm.
come, you know, and where you are. And you know, I feel like with people that have gone through these challenges, those are I feel for myself, those are the type of people that I connect with the most, because I feel like on a deeper level, even though our challenges may be different and what we've been through may be different, but at the end we've we're in a similar place where we're connecting, we have connected with ourselves, we've
Yes.
gone back and healed, and now we're looking to move forward with a purpose in life.
Mhm.
And I said this in one of my earlier podcasts that, when people get to this place where they're still on their journey. I'm still on my journey. You're still on yours.
Mhm.
But when you are on this journey, when you come out the other side and you're able to look back and say, okay, yeah, these are the places that I've healed. These are the places I can still heal. And you've mastered this skill, that
Mhm.
it's often always that you want to share that message with the world, that skill to say, this is what I've done and how I've done it, and you can do it too. And
Mhm.
you don't have to live that life where you're hurting, and you're not
Mhm.
living the best life or the best version of yourself. You
Right.
have that opportunity within you to do it, and you just have to be encouraged and believe in
Mhm.
yourself.
Well, yeah, one big roadblock that I had growing up was that one is a mind roadblock, that you had to be successful in order to teach. You
Mm-hmm.
had to be a millionaire. You had to make a lot of money in order for people to listen to you. But actually, that's not the case at all. Because whenever you're not there, people relate to you a lot more on an intimate level. Because you're right there. You're just one. All you have to do is just be one step ahead.
Mm-hmm.
That is for anything. If you were to teach a class about any subject, you could just be one day ahead and you could teach it. In life, whenever you're going to new levels, you just have to be one level above them to teach it. And then you're so much more relatable in that instance. That's where you can build impactful relationships, real relationships, and then start to find people who are going to join you on your journey, or help you get to the next level because you're pouring into them, and you're seeing their lives change. So that was just one big mental roadblock in my mind, that uh, nobody's ever going to listen to me unless I'm successful. But getting over that, that's kind of like the imposter
Mm-hmm.
syndrome as well. Like, I don't have this, so what am I? Who am I? But it's all just bogus. Like, you have a
It is.
message, and your message, you don't know who it's going to inspire. But if it inspires one person to change their lives, it's worth it. You know, Even if that one day you didn't inspire someone that day, but the next day you change somebody's life, like, it's worth it to keep sharing your message, keep sharing, teaching your passions. Like,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah, and I think that is, that's, what I started this, that was the intention of this podcast, was to talk to people like you that, just are average people just amongst all of us, that, anybody can make these small changes and have it impact their life so deeply. And,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to have credentials, you don't have to have a lot of money, you don't have to have a lot of experience. Even you could be on this journey for 2 months, like you said, or a month or a year or 2 years or a whole decade, but it doesn't matter. It's just, as a person, you always have something to share and something to value.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when I first started, somebody asked me, how will you monetize a podcast? And, and I said to them, I said, my intention of my podcast is not to make money. My intention is to inspire. And if like you said, if you inspire just one person, that is
Mm-hmm.
worth more than any amount of money in the whole entire world, because one person is now on their journey to live a more fulfilled life. And
Mm-hmm.
that's more valuable than any dollar amount that you can
Yeah,
have.
for sure. And whenever I started becoming a life coach, I was doing some like market research and stuff. And I like to teach about purpose because purpose changed my life. So I
Mm-hmm.
was interviewing like 25 entrepreneurs, leaders, and I asked them, like, most of them didn't know what their purpose is, but they all understood that where their most fulfilling life, how it would be. And basically they all came to the conclusion that serving others is my purpose. They didn't know how, but they know that if they serve others, they will find fulfillment. And like, it's crazy how we're wired like that, because we know what we're supposed to be doing with other people, but we just don't know exactly where. But yeah, that's literally what creates purpose in life. Without serving others, and it's even, I also like to make the point that it's bigger than our family. Even purpose is greater than our family.
Mm-hmm.
Your purpose, what I believe, is not to be a great mother and father. Your purpose is much bigger than that. Your purpose
Mm-hmm.
goes out into many people's lives, not just your family. I don't believe you were sent here just to be a great mother and live in your family, because that's more like a personal goal. Purpose is living for something greater than yourself and serving others. And the best way to do that is through your passions. It's the easiest, most fun way, right?
Yeah,
And,
and
and
you only have one life to live, so why not live a life of passion and purpose?
right.
And you don't
In today's
have to.
society too,
Sorry?
in today's society, we're spoiled enough, we're blessed enough to have that opportunity. Especially with the internet, we can create a passion-based business solely online. We have the freedom to create a business whenever, in whatever we want. Because back in the day, in the 1920s, like, people couldn't follow their passion like they can today. Because especially even time before that, they had to follow their parents' footsteps. That was like the traditional way of life. Like, what your father did, you'll probably do too, and you'll just like take the family business, or you'll be a farmer, or you really had less of a choice back then. But in today's world, it's so different. Like,
Mm-hmm.
now it's like people follow their heart, because and it's necessary too, because technology is like, so it will guide you if you allow it to. People are guided by the news, social media. Like, they're so focused on this that it dictates their life. But having focus for yourself is so freeing from social media, freeing from video games, freeing from anything that's controlling you, right? So it's so
Mm-hmm.
powerful to have that direction, that purpose in your life.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that is very inspiring for anyone just listening, that no matter where you're at or where you want to be, you just need to find what your purpose is, and get you onto that journey of finding your purpose in life and your passion, and
Hmm.
being able to understand how to live that.
Yeah. And purpose, there's a lot of people, especially I reach into groups, and there's some people who teach about purpose, and it's really it's kind of misleading. You listen to a bunch of different people, but I feel like the Japanese ikigai, have you heard of that?
No, I haven't yet.
That's an awesome tool to use. It's so powerful because it teaches you how to reflect on your abilities to find your purpose. It's not like a lot of the world's ways of telling you how to find your purpose is like to just meditate every day. Ask the universe, what is my purpose? Every day you just have to ask the universe, and then one day you'll figure it out. But it's not that, like, it doesn't come, purpose won't come to you like that. So the best way, and it is through, the way I help my clients is through their gifts, their passions, in the service of others. That's like simply it. That's living your most fulfilling life. That's finding the job that you would love to work in. That's how you find your dream job, how you find your dream business. Also, that it's like purpose is simply as that: your passions and your gifts in the service of others.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you decide if you're going to start a business, you decide if you're going to join a company to exercise your gifts in the service of others. Also, you can decide to volunteer your time once you have that. With sports, I could do it for free. That's why I'm a missionary. That's why, like, I could be out there for hours teaching these kids baseball, American football, basketball, like, because I love it. It's just like, but knowing my purpose is what allows me to step into it, knowing it's what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't know my purpose, my direction for life, I wouldn't be out there necessarily. Even though I loved it, I wouldn't be out there, because um, it's time consuming, it's energy taking, So it's like, but knowing like that purpose is what, like, okay, like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I know when I come back home, I'm excited. I'm like, wow, that was fun. Like, those kids really had a great time today. Like, I had a great time. Like, they're getting better. Like, it's really cool, really fulfilling. Even though it's my free time, I'm just like giving my time to them. It's
Yeah,
worth it. 'Cause I found my passions.
but you're enjoying it and having fun, and I think that's the most part. If you are going to give your time up and you are going to invest your time and energy into something, you have to enjoy it and you have to have fun
Mhm.
with it, because as soon as it's no longer enjoyable, you have to ask yourself why it's no
Yeah.
longer, and go back to your mission and your purpose, and what about it is not aligning there for you.
Hmm. For sure. Yeah. And there was one, it's so, like I said, empowering with the mission, because it's easy to say yes and no. It's easier. Like, it's like, there's no question about it. If I should take this job opportunity, if I should look into working for this company long term, because you have that direction, you have that certainty. That's what a lot of people are lacking in this life, is certainty, the direction of their company. They start, especially aspiring entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs, they start a business, they have a passion for it for a year, and it's not like where they wanted it to be, and they start thinking, should I change? Should I change, start a new business? Should I keep going at this business? What do I do? I'm burnt out. Like, I don't know what to do. Without that certainty and direction, they'll just be burnt out. They'll have the what's it called, shiny object syndrome, where they're just going opportunity to opportunity. Like, that's how I was back in the day. And but with that direction, they will know for sure if they're supposed to stay in that company, or build that specific business, or change to a new one, which would be more fulfilling and more fun. More, they'll be able to come to work with passion, wake up inspired to go to work, and come home
Mm-hmm.
fulfilled every day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you've shared a lot of really good pieces of advice and information for people that just need a little bit of inspiration to get started on this journey, or who already are on this journey but just need a little bit of a parameter or framework around this. Because like you said, you need to have a purpose or a mission statement to you know be your guiding framework for your life and for where you're going. And and opportunities, like you said, they come from all over the place. And sometimes you think, like, is this what I want to do? Is this not what I want to do? What's the purpose here? Where is this coming from? And I
Right.
think that it takes a lot of courage, but I think once you're clear on your purpose, that
Hmm.
courage comes with it as well.
For sure. Yeah. Whenever I was in China teaching English, I was making like $3,000 a month, which was basically the same amount of money I was making at the oil field. So it was like my one of my highest paying jobs, and I was like so comfortable. $3,000 a month. That's like in my pocket, $3,000. So it was like, that was great. I didn't have to do hard labor work. I just had to come show up at a kindergarten and play with kids all day. Like, it was
Yeah.
fun, but it was also very draining. But when I had the opportunity to switch my jobs, um, I had to take $1,000 pay cut to work in that American football organization there. And normally I would have said no, like, that's an obvious no. Like, I don't want to take $1,000 pay cut to work for your company. But like, knowing the direction of my life and stuff, it would be more meaningful. So I decided to try it, just go for it. Because I thought, like, what would it be like to get paid to do what I love? Not work for free, but get paid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I made that shift, I started to realize how different you work whenever you love what you do. Like, when I was lesson planning for classes, it was like, I had so many ideas. I was like, we could do this, we could do that. When I was lesson planning for English, I was like, letter A, like Apple. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? This is annoying. And I had to present these lesson plans to parents and stuff. But when I was presenting to parents at the other company, I was like, yeah, this is this, and we're gonna do this, and this helps this, and then, like, it was just a different thing, and it just showed me how valuable it is to work doing something that you love, how it changes your whole life,
For sure.
because our work is like 80% of our everyday tasks. Like, our time, it takes 80% of our time every day. We go to work for 8 hours. We come home and we're drained of energy. We want to come home and be a great mother and father and go do a lot of things, but we're tired, we're drained, because work's a drag. Work is depressing. We don't like our job. Like, but having a job that you love, like, it's not draining, it's energizing. When I get home from with those kids, like I shared, I'm like, what do I want? I want to do something else. It's
Yeah.
like so crazy but how powerful that is to do what you love. And that's like my message. Like, my goal with my whole out the box company is just to inspire people to step into jobs that they love. Experience it. Just get the experience, and you'll never go back. Even for the money, the pay cut, it's worth it.
Yeah. And and I think what you said is on point with exactly how I feel too, being able to live your life and do your passion, even though it's probably much harder because you do clock in more hours, because you're thinking about it all the time. You want to keep working on it because you love it so much.
Right.
It's just so fulfilling. So you don't even think about it, and you're not, like you said, depleted at the end of the day. You're energized. You're looking forward to waking up tomorrow so you can continue to work on this. And, and you just get energized from everything that has to do with the work that you're trying to do. And on that note, you talked about your company Out the Box. So do you want to share a little bit about how people can connect with you, the kind of services you provide, and where they can reach out to you if they're interested in connecting with you around that?
So right now I'm really zoning in on Facebook, and you could find my page at Out the Box, searching in the search bar, and that the O on out is a 0 because the other one was taken. So I put the number 0. You can find me there, and you can join our community. We have a group in there, the Changemaker Society. And I just talk all about purpose. I talk all about mindset, leadership. That's what we all talk about in there. And it's just the main vision for this group is just to gather entrepreneurs like yourself, everybody that understands living for life for others in service of others through your passions is the most fulfilling life, And I do want to kick up my podcast again soon and interview people that are in the community. So if you're an entrepreneur doing what you love, I would love for you to join us. If you don't know what you want to do in life, come join us as well. You would learn so much. And I do have a course coming out soon that teaches all about how the process that I went through. Looking back, I put it into a simple plan to help you clarify your purpose, your most fulfilling career path. So join me on Facebook. That's where all my time and energy is going to right now.
That's awesome. You're actually the first person that's called me an entrepreneur, and that took me aback for a second. I was like, what do you know? And I was like, oh wait, I guess I'm there, because, you always dream about living this life, or being this person, or being an entrepreneur, and then, and when it happens, it kind of takes you aback to realize and connect that, you are there now, you are becoming an entrepreneur. But when you start up your podcast, I'd love to return the favor and be on yours as well. And for everyone, please, I'll link all his Facebook page and his information onto the blog in the link show notes, as well as on my Instagram and social media account, so you can connect with him there as well. Just before we end, I do a question every day on my Instagram stories, just to get people to think a little deeper. So I wanted to do one with you. Oh, this is a perfect question for you. Okay, so the question is, if you could be a famous athlete for a single game, who would you be?
Wow. That's a hard one.
Power of the universe, because I just pulled that out of a large deck of cards.
That's awesome. That's cool. That is so perfect, because that was my dream, man, that's a hard question, because I love a lot of athletes.
You pick one for all the sports you play.
For one day to relive one of their moments or something, or?
Yeah, if you could be one famous athlete, who would you be?
I would be Ray Lewis, the old middle linebacker for the Ravens. He was a guy I really looked up to, and I based my game off of him as well, because he was not only a great player, but he was also a great leader, and especially a spiritual leader for his team. So I would definitely love to experience his last Super Bowl game, how he felt and everything. And that was his final career, last year of playing as well. So I'm sure it was a really great moment. Yeah, it would definitely be Ray Lewis.
That's awesome. I'll have to search up who he is, because I'm not much of a sports fan, but my husband is a huge sports fan. So if I tell him, he'll tell me everything
sure he'll know
about
who
him.
That is.
But thank you so much, Ian, for connecting and for agreeing to be on this podcast. It's been a very powerful conversation, and I know it's going to inspire lots and lots of people. And and I just really have enjoyed having this conversation with you, and and I really hope we can connect further about this topic as we continue on this journey.
For sure. Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. I really had a lot of fun today. I love this conversation. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to the end of this episode. And I hope that you enjoyed the episode as much as I loved recording it. And I hope that you enjoyed hearing Ian speak about his journey to his purpose in life and all that he's doing to live that purpose. All of our show notes for this episode are on our blog at howdidyoulearntodothat.com. And any other information that you may be looking for is also on there. Or you can send me a note and ask me any questions that you may have or any follow-up questions you may have for Ian as well. Please help us grow and continue to bring these inspiring stories to you by subscribing, liking, and sharing us on all our social media accounts, as well as following us on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. If you could leave a review for us on YouTube or any of the podcast platforms that we're on, that would be absolutely amazing. It would help us grow so much faster. And with your encouragement and with your love, we can do that. If there are any topics that you would like us to cover, or if there's anybody that inspires you or somebody that's doing something that you're interested in, understanding how they learn to do that, please send me a note on any of our social media accounts, as well as sending me a note through our website, and I will reach out to them and have to see if they can actually come onto our podcast. And just a final note, remember, investing in yourself has the ability to catalyze your life from ordinary to extraordinary and to allow you to start to thrive and live a thriving life as opposed to just a life where you cope. Get out of that grind and start to love the life that you've created for yourself. All right, so we'll see you next week. And just a reminder that we do share questions every single week on our Instagram stories for you to take a look at, to self-reflect, and to analyze and to respond to. And feel free to send your answers to either to me directly or to post it on your own stories or your Instagram posts and tag us at How Did You Learn to Do That? And with that, we would love to send you off with happiness and joy and kindness for this entire week. And we'll see you next week. All right. Bye.